Welcome to our video on Climate Justice Explained. Why Equity Matters in Environmental Action. In this session, we will delve into the concept of climate justice, exploring how environmental challenges disproportionately affect vulnerable communities around the world. We'll discuss the historical responsibilities that shape our current climate crisis, highlight the critical intertwining of social issues and environmental concerns, and emphasize the need for inclusive climate policies. Join us as we examine global movements advocating for climate justice and provide actionable policy recommendations to foster a fairer, more equitable response to climate change. 1. Understanding climate justice. Climate justice is a term that is becoming increasingly important in discussions about the environment. At its core, it refers to the idea that the burdens and benefits of climate action should be distributed fairly. This is crucial because marginalized communities often bear the brunt of climate impacts despite having contributed the least to the problem. These communities, which include low-income groups and people of color, find themselves on the front line of climate change due to systemic inequalities. Climate justice also emphasizes the importance of inclusive decision-making, ensuring that the voices of vulnerable populations are heard and considered in environmental policies. It's about recognizing the imbalance and working towards solutions that are fair and equitable for all. 2. Disproportionate impacts on vulnerable communities. The impacts of climate change are not felt equally across the globe. Low-income communities and communities of color are often more severely affected. This is due to a combination of factors such as geographic location, limited access to resources, and long-standing systemic inequalities. For instance, urban heat islands are areas where temperatures are significantly higher than their surroundings, and they disproportionately affect marginalized neighborhoods. This leads to increased health risks, such as heat-related illnesses, which these communities are often less equipped to handle. The disparities are stark and highlight the urgent need for climate justice to address these inequalities. 3. Historical responsibility and its implications. Another critical aspect of climate justice is the idea of historical responsibility. Developed nations have historically been the largest contributors to global greenhouse gas emissions. However, it is the developing countries, which have contributed the least, that are facing the most severe consequences. These include extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and food insecurity. Climate justice calls for acknowledging this historical responsibility and for developed nations to take the lead in addressing climate change. This means not only reducing their emissions but also supporting those who are most affected by the crisis. 4. The intersection of climate and social issues. Climate justice is not just an environmental issue, it intersects with a multitude of social issues. These include poverty, healthcare, housing, and education. Addressing climate change effectively requires a holistic approach that considers these interconnected challenges. For example, improving access to education and healthcare can empower communities to better adapt to climate impacts. Thus, promoting social equity is a fundamental aspect of climate justice. It's about creating a world where everyone, regardless of their socio-economic status, has the opportunity to thrive in the face of climate change. 5. The importance of inclusion in climate policy. Inclusion is a cornerstone of climate justice. Meaningful participation of affected communities in the development and implementation of climate policies is essential. When local stakeholders are involved, the initiatives tend to be more successful and resilient. Community-led adaptation projects, for example, have demonstrated significant benefits by leveraging local knowledge and fostering a sense of ownership. This participatory approach ensures that the solutions are tailored to the specific needs and circumstances of the communities, making them more effective and sustainable. 6. Global movements advocating for climate justice. In recent years, global movements have emerged that connect climate action with social justice. Movements like Fridays for Future and Black Lives Matter advocate for systemic changes that address both environmental and social inequalities. These activists argue that climate policies should not only focus on reducing emissions but also on promoting sustainable development and equity. The growing momentum of these movements highlights the public's demand for a more just and inclusive approach to tackling climate change. 7. Policy recommendations for achieving climate justice. To achieve climate justice, policies must be designed with equity at their core. This includes equitable distribution of resources and investment in green jobs, particularly for marginalized communities. Supporting climate adaptation measures is also crucial, ensuring that those most impacted by climate change have the resources needed to adapt and thrive. Policies should prioritize funding for these communities, recognizing their unique challenges and needs. By doing so, we can create a more just and sustainable future for everyone.